farewell to North Africa. Almost 2 months of exciting culture, Arabic language, Berber people, communists, Islam, Catholic, Christian, Jewish quarters. It was a great time in North Africa and one that I will never forget. And then going to Palermo in Sicily, the curtain fell, and Africa was nothing but a memory. So behind me is the great souk, and you can see it's men drinking coffee and tea and living the life that they live. There's no women in sight, which is typical. And this is part of the culture left behind, is one that is totally male dominated. You just don't see women at all in those days 50 years ago. I know things have evolved a bit, but I think it's still a lot that way, and it certainly was that way 50 years ago. Traveling overnight on a ship is a big deal. Even though it was only a relatively short distance, first you got to get out to the port. Then you have to deal with visas, customs, immigration. They know you're going to Italy and this is all figured in, and it's a big deal. You're on a bus and you're with all these hippie travelers who are segregated out, and the local travelers are put in another area. And it's kind of like doing an all-nighter on a plane. You know, they call it a red eye, when you're going from California to Michigan, and it takes 4 hours, but you're leaving late at night, and you get there and you kind of lose a night. It was rough. And we get out there, and there's many people in there. We're in the fourth class, the lousy part. But Nancy showed some spirit here and really showed her worth. She led a group of us into the bar, in a nice, comfortable place where we could lay down and be on a comfortable couch-type environment. But you get up in the morning and everybody's yelling and screaming because it's Arabic, and they're telling the Tunisians to go over here, and the hippies and the travelers over there. And at this point, you see Japanese guys with German guys traveling, and all kinds of different sorts of people who made it across basically North Africa to go back to Europe and to Sicily. Practically speaking, there's no way to go by land from Africa to Europe. And that's typical of the travel from these cultural divides. So we get to Sicily, and wow, guess what? You're back. You are inextricably left into a new realm, and you have left behind the old realm, and somehow or another, not just continents, but cultures have been left behind. And you get off, and you're in Europe. Nancy and I get off with a group of travelers that we've kind of gotten involved with, and we're kind of staggering around, and we find ourselves in an Italian restaurant. We get spaghetti, but of course we had to find some money because we don't have Italian money. So we're waiting. There's siesta times, and you got to wait till the bank opens up. Finally, we get some money, and we eat a great meal. It was so fantastic to taste the wonderful Italian food again. And I was kind of used to Sicilian red sauces. Always really enjoyed them as I got older and started to enjoy Italian type food. But it was fantastic to be back. And it was a joy for all of us, but we were quite ignorant and didn't know what to do and where to go. We had to find a hotel, not that again. And that didn't make things easy. And somehow we find one, and we spend one night in this town of Palermo, and it was okay. You know, it was kind of like a funky place. And of course, there's the Sicilian mafia mystique that we're dealing with. And, you don't know whether you're supposed to be scared or afraid, or whether or not you're supposed to be a bold guy and just go with the flow. But the people were very nice. And a lot of the women did wear the black, and they were very Catholic and very mystiqued in terms of the culture. And the next day we get up, and it's time to hit the road again, and we're hitchhiking. We're in Europe now, And behind me is a smattering of the photos that show you that you see European buildings, church-type buildings, and it's everywhere. It's not just one building. So this was really, again, the culture shock of hitting the European culture after leaving Arabic and African culture behind. Behind me is Fred and I having some fun, wearing some old hippie clothes that Fred came up with. But I would like to talk a little bit about how tough it was to be away from home on New Year's Eve. And I wrote this in my journal. To go home now would be absurd. I'm such a child. Oh, God, help me to find my way in this wicked world. I'm a wayward traveler, and I'm tired of searching for a place to rest my weary head. Yep, it's New Year's Eve in Cataroli on the island of Sicily, and I'm 5,000 miles from my home. Here I am, crying the blues. To get a little perspective, you can see we're trying to go from Palermo to Messina on the island of Sicily because that's right to the toe of the boot of Italy. And I'm going to show you that from above. There's the boot, there's the toe, there's the heel, and there's the football, which is Sicily. And of course, here's Africa where we came from. So you think, oh, that's no big deal. We can get there. It's just a few hours, couple hours, half hour more. And we get on the road, but we can't get a ride. And we get picked up by a couple of ladies, and they lead us astray. And they wound up leaving us. And then we got through a kind of a slam bang event. We get to a town, and there's a tiny town on a mountain, and we wound up getting there, and it's night, and it's New Year's Eve, would you have it? Oh, Nancy and I, we were really bummed out. But we get up the next day, and somehow, finally, we hitchhike, and we get to Messina. And Messina is the way to get over to Reggio Calabria on the mainland of Italy of Europe. We are trying to get from Reggio Calabria really to Rome because we were going to get money there. I didn't know where I was going. Nancy didn't know, but that was our destination that we had planned all along. So first, the route is to go from Reggio to Salerno, but we get in and we're hanging around in Reggio Calabria, and we have to find a place to stay there. Well, some guys pick us up. They buy us some bad pizza, and they won't leave us alone. And they find us a place on the beach. Now, this is wintertime. People are not going on the beach in the Mediterranean in the wintertime, in case you were wondering, because it's cold. And we found these old beach houses. And they said, oh, you can sleep there. And then, things got crazy. These other guys came, and they're bringing us food, and they keep talking to us in Italian. And they will not stop talking to us in Italian. And finally, we started screaming at these guys. No capisco, we don't understand Italian. And they think if they're going to keep talking to us in Italian, somehow we're going to understand it. Well, that was a very frustrating experience. We kind of gave up at that point and said, we're mumbling, They finally left us at 1, 2 o'clock in the morning. I'm sure they really just wanted to deal with Nancy because, again, that blonde hair is driving these guys crazy. Finally, they leave us, we go to sleep, and we get up the next day, and it's raining. And we're trying to hitchhike, again, as far as we can go, but our goal is to get to Naples. And somehow, during all this rain, we do get to Salerno. And in Salerno, there's more adventure. We got to find another hotel. This morning is one simple ride to Naples. A local says we can sleep at college housing. He takes us here where I write, and then shows us a restaurant which screws us, changing too much, charging us way too much. Food is good, lasagna great, pizza horrid, not really pizza, price exorbitant. We come back to the student housing, and the guy takes our key away. But Prince Valiant comes to the rescue. This is the fellow that brought us there. He takes us to his room and shows us the town, etc. It's a pretty intense town. The other guy went back to Salerno with a chick. The city is amazing. Driving is insane. Fiat, Fiat, Fiat. Tiny little cars. Soon Nancy flips out. Take her to the hostel, she demands. By phone, we try to reach it. We can't. She insists. We drive there. It's closed. We sleep here anyway. Far out. It's good. Good night. I lost my pen. Back to my broken Parker T-ball jotter. I saw little or nothing of Salerno. We get into this hotel, and it was a cruddy place. And we're sleeping, and it is so noisy. We kept hearing this crazy sounds all night long. And I couldn't hardly sleep, but I get up in the morning, and I look outside. We're right on the ocean. Apparently it had been storming in the night, and the ocean was roaring. We didn't know what was going on, and it was crazy because you'd think we would know we were on the ocean, but we had no idea. But we get up the next day, and we go a very short distance, and we find our way to Naples. Now, Naples is a big, crazy town. There's a lot of action there. It's famous, as we all know. And one of the things that I didn't know when I went through there is that Pompeii and Vesuvius, the mountain that had the famous explosion in the volcano that caused, not explosion, but a volcanic explosion that caused all these people to be metamorphosized into lava. So they sat, and now they're statues. Well, hell, I missed a lot because I didn't know what the hell I was doing. But I doubt if I would have gone anyway because I was so wet from the day before. But we did stay in Naples, and Naples was very cool for a couple of days. They did have some pretty cool pizza. It's now become famous here in the United States, but in those days it was a strange thing to me. And we stayed in a college dormitory for a night or two because these fellas found us and they said, oh, you can stay here. And it was kind of cool, and it was an exciting place because there's action there. But it was kind of sleazy, and it seemed like a bit scary, but you know, it was just a place to stay, and it wasn't really a destination, but a way on the way to hopefully get to Rome soon. A note from my journal again. 5 January 1971. Rome, the eternal city. I am here. We tried to hitch here, and after standing in the freezing rain for 1.5 hours, we decided that the train was the only answer. We finally get here at 7:30 p.m., and it is pouring here too. After grabbing some pizza, not bad, it's back on the streets and the rain trying to get to the damn hostel. Wild goose chase, but we make it. Got up this morning, and we still go to American Express. Yes, it's we, me and Nancy. I received 10 letters, a real mind blower, and $100 plus $25 from Nancy that she owed me. The letters blew my mind. Then a letter from my brother Alvin, and Alvin said he would send me more money to keep me going. So this was important. And here I am in the famous Rome, and that is the end of this week's adventure. 50 years ago. Next week is a full week in the Eternal City, Rome. Yes, that's the famous Colosseum behind me, where the gladiators fought, where the Christians were thrown to the lions. And I will go through the details of an incredible week. It's only in one place. I get out into the country a bit. I also go to the Vatican. I ultimately see the Pope. I get some more money. And I decide, I think I am not going home. It's off to Israel. I arrange transportation, and that will be the end of my wonderful week in the famous eternal city of Rome.
Chapter 9. Sicily to Rome to Israel. I'm a wayward traveler searching for my inner truth. It's New Year's Day, 1971, and I'm in a town named Caterioli, on the northern coast of the island of Sicily. I'm about 50 miles from the Italian mainland and 5,000 miles from my American homeland. Nancy and I hit the road at the morning sunrise. We quickly hitch a ride to the main road heading east along the coast. We walk an additional 5 kilometers before we snag the next ride. "Hop in, my friends," he says. Nancy and I unload our backpacks, then squeeze ourselves into the small subcompact car. She gets in first, then I hand her gear to her, followed by my gear, and I squeeze in tight, reshifting my gear to my lap. We feel like sardines. "Where are you from?" "Myself, I'm an Irishman, from the town of Dublin," he says. "We're from the United States," I say. "She's from the state of Washington, and I'm from the state of Michigan. I've never been to the USA yet, but I've been all around Europe." "We're just looking to catch a ferry boat ride across the channel to the Italian mainland," I say. "Well, I can get you to the little town of Barcelona at least. I'm still a few kilometers after that to get to Messina to purchase your boat tickets." Any help we can get moving closer down the road to our destination is fine with us. We make it to the quaint village town of Barcelona, where the Irishman drops us off at a restaurant. Nancy and I locate an empty table, take a seat, and peruse the menus for a quick bite to eat before we continue on our journey.